I'm Sam Bogoch, CEO of Axel Video, and we're really excited to have this team together for today's presentation, which includes some of the top folks from Symply and Axel. And we'll be talking today about our new combined solution, which includes the SymplyULTRA storage system and Axel Starter and Axel 2017 media management. On the line, we have Alex Grossman, CEO of Symply, Skip Levens, who does business development and plenty more besides for Symply, and Jason Perl, who's the software architect there. And on our team, it's me, Patrice Gouttebel, who's our product manager, and Jim Franz-Reb, who does our marketing. We also have some other members of the Symply and Axel teams probably logged in. So fire away with your questions. I will say we've got plenty of sort of brain power to answer whatever you can bring up. And also we would love to get more into the Q&A aspect of the call. We will also not hesitate if there are, say, 3 or 4 questions that have been built up, to take a break from the presentation aspect and just directly answer questions as we go. So for that, if you're using the GoToWebinar control panel on your Mac or PC, there's a section towards the bottom called questions. And you can just type questions in there at any time. And again, what we'll try to do is answer those in the background. It'll probably be someone other than the presenter, obviously. So we'll answer them in text form. But then if there's a good head of steam, we can also pause the presentations and talk to them. So let me talk a little bit about the agenda. We've set aside the first 10 minutes of the call for just an introduction, not only of the teams, but also of the products. Then we're going to go into a deeper dive of the Symply product line and not only the hardware, but also the software and the administrative interface, which is really cool. And then we're going to spend a corresponding amount of time on Axel 2017, including Axel Starter, and a little bit on Axel AI, which is our new artificial intelligence deep learning search tool. And as I mentioned at the end, we'll have 20 minutes set aside for questions and answers. So first, just a brief heads up on the Symply products. As you may have heard, these launched at NAB a couple of weeks ago. And I won't steal Alex's and Skip's thunder on this, but essentially it's a converged SAN NAS storage system in a 2U form factor that includes pretty state-of-the-art system software and kind of a workspace approach to making shared storage as simple as possible. And Axel, for our part, is a browser-based media management tool. We now handle over 2 million assets in the full version, and we also have some in-depth capabilities like support for multiple languages, both in the user interface and the metadata, full text search using Elasticsearch, the ability to ingest from a variety of video camera formats. And above all, and we'll be touching more on this in our presentation, Axel doesn't try to control what's on your storage. So it makes it an ideal complement for a variety of shared editing workflows, because basically instead of trying to manage where everything goes, Axel gives you a continuous high-level view through a browser of what's on your storage, and we feel that has a lot of really strong advantages. There are also details like our Premiere panel that we'll be showing, export to FCPX, and as I mentioned, the new Axel AI search module. Do the other one.
Oh, Sam, yeah, go ahead and do the other one.
Will do.
So while Sam's doing that, I'll introduce myself. I'm Skip Levens. That's the voice you hear, and I think it's been, gosh, how many days since NAB? But the Symply team has been working really hard. The Axel team is always working hard. And, we can't wait just to give you a quick overview of what Symply's doing, and explain exactly how we pack so much technology in such a small space.
So, hey Skip, it's Alex. You should see our host up there. Is that correct?
Perfect, perfect. Okay, so I'm Skip. I'm the cartoon in the middle. Joined by our Alex Grossman, our CEO, and a little later, Jason Perl, who drives our software, is going to give you a peek at something I dare say is revolutionary in the way that we take the complex and make it, shall we say, simple. What do you think of that, Alex?
I love it. Hi, Skip. I'm sorry.
Go ahead. So I would say, so yeah, so Symply is not just a name that really doesn't like the letter I. We like to we spell it SYMPLY, but literally it's kind of a fun jab at how everybody tries to make things complex. And I think the theme for today is how to make the difficult simple. And Simple is a team of experts gathered at critical places around the world, and they all are passionately driving to try and build great tools, make things intuitive, user-friendly, and let you do your work. I'll just share that at the NAB show, they interviewed me for something called the Met Effect, and they call it media, entertainment, and technology. And that's a really nice way to summarize what Symply's been driving on for years, is take great tools, let you do great work. Is that a pretty good summary of what Symply is, Alex?
I think that's great, Skip. I was just going to say that the reason, we're live from our Symply headquarters in Torrance, California, and the reason that we really have located in Los Angeles, New York, and London is because we think those are the centers of where media is created. It doesn't mean that other places don't do a lot of fantastic media creation, but we go out to our customers, we go out to people who are there constantly so that we can get more information about how the whole world is changing. And that's really why we did Symply. I mean, we've been in this business for a long time. I personally have known Sam since, I hate to say this, Sam, 1989. But we've really seen changes happen. And most of us came from Apple. Skip and I came from Apple, and we drove XSAN, Xserve, and Xserve RAID, and we really changed the way that people looked at low-cost entrance to, at that time, what we called workflow. And we think the world's in a second change as far as content creation go. Workflows are becoming more complex, higher resolutions, greater number of ingest and delivery formats. And we think that the way you handle collaboration doesn't have to be. We still believe that industry standard, industry best tools and best practices are important, but new technologies such as software-defined storage, virtualization, and Intel's incredible processor technology really has changed the way that we do business. And so that's why we created this thing that we call the media workspace. It's the one place for all your collaborative storage, and we do that with what we believe is no complexity and no compromises. And for Symply, even though we're only about a little less than 2 years old, this path hasn't been an easy one. Getting the best quality products to the market and doing it in a way that we feel can be simple, it was just a hard path. And we've really tried to meet the needs of what people had told us, and we think we're making storage simply better. One of the things that I really wanted to talk about today was really how we address the changing market dynamics. One of the problems that we've always seen is that people go out to build a workspace or build a workflow, and they really want to know, what do I use to do that? And it doesn't matter if you're a post facility with 50 people or a post facility with 2 people, if you're a house of worship or you're an in-house creative, it really doesn't matter. You could be a small broadcaster, you could be a large one. Today, there's a lot of confusion into what do I do, and just a few years ago, it seemed a lot easier. You knew what you had to do. I have to go out and I have to build a traditional SAN. That means I have to go out and buy a lot of pieces and put them together, and I need someone to do that for me. And usually it's a reseller of VAR who can help you do that. And then you put it all together, and then you have to say, well, what is the expense of my workstation? I have to put fiber channel in. I have to figure out what to do. And then along came the idea that we looked at a lot of different codecs hitting the market where compression was higher, and we were in HD, and HD got easier. And all of a sudden, people started cropping up these, what I call underpowered, limited, NAS-based solutions. And some of them work for a lot of people. But the problem is a lot of those have come with compromises. And as we move to 4K and higher resolutions and HDR, where demands get even higher, all of a sudden those systems start to look underpowered. And a lot of people are saying to themselves, so do I have to go back to these more traditional non-integrated SANs? Do I have to spend an incredible amount of money to get industry standard pieces? And that's why we built SymplyULTRA, because we don't believe you do. We believe the past was complexity. And believe me, part of this past was us. We built that complexity, and we didn't build it in purposely. We built it in because it was the only way you could do it. I mean, literally, if you wanted to build something that would meet all your needs and guarantee you were somewhat future-proof, and guarantee that no matter what deadline you had and what job was thrown in front of you, you could do it. You took 2 metadata controllers, you loaded them with probably the best software you could. In the good old days, it was NAS-SAN, when Apple had 1U rack optimized servers like the Xserve. And then today it's probably StorNext. And you put that on there because you can guarantee the reliability and the performance of your collaborative storage. Then you had to have an array to store that metadata called a metadata array. Then you had to have another disk array for your basic storage, and that could grow into even more. And then you had to have a reshare server, because guess what? Not everybody needs to be on high-speed network. There are people like producers and other people who need to be, anybody who's on your network needs to be on what we'll call a NAS or some type of Ethernet share. And so you ended up with 8U worth of product, and it wasn't how much space it took. It was the problem of, well, I had a couple Dell servers that use Dell management tools, and I have to understand Linux, and I have to have different passwords and different logins, and then I have a disk array, and who knows what software that's going to use, and I have to have a login and a password there, and I need to understand that, and I might even have a different brand disk array for the metadata as I do for the data. Now I have to listen to 2 of those. Then I've got another server, and it's either a Windows server running a reshare or a Linux server running a reshare. And hey, I'm a Mac guy, I don't even get how to run those, and more passwords and more management and hardware management and software management tools. And if you've done this before, you're shaking your head yes, because you know that. Or you called a VAR or someone else to come in and manage it, but when it went down, what a hassle to get it up. So we think the future is simplicity, and that's why we built SymplyULTRA. So SymplyULTRA takes all of that complexity and boils it down to a single 2U. And here's the beauty of it. If you ever have to talk to it, we have an incredible tool to talk to it. You don't have to know how to manage any of those systems, but you get the same level, or in some cases, a better level of performance and capabilities out of that single 2U than you did on the whole system. And with this, I mean, Skip, this is what most people would consider software-defined storage, right? This thing that we call the workspace.
It absolutely is. Just to riff a bit on what you said, let's face it, there are a lot of people who have a vested interest in making things as complex and mysterious and requiring the use of white-coated lab assistants. And it shouldn't be. I mean, I'll say it again, tools should be simple and powerful and get out of your way and let you create. And this approach means that you're taking this software-defined storage technology and applying it for the first time meaningfully in the industry that I'm aware of to the needs of media and entertainment and creators. And it's a little short of revolutionary. And what I also think that the Xserves that you created at Apple, the equivalent of 2 of those are packed into the back of this 2U system, is kind of amazing. So there's a lot of technology in there, but we also wanted to make sure that the way it was supported was as easy and as simple as possible. Some people may hear software-defined storage and know how powerful it is and how it's used in a lot of enterprise environments. And in an enterprise environment, a customer gets mugged every year to say, this is how much you're going to pay me for support this year. And when you actually call for support, read me the number off the back of your system, jump through.
Get your credit card on, right?
And by the time you get to someone, it's someone who knows enterprise. And so we threw all that out the window and said, even though this is really powerful technology, we are going to make it very simple. 5-year warranty, 5-year maintenance. When you call, you get a hold of someone from Symply who understands workflow, how to install these systems, has probably been in your environment before because of all the SANs we've done around the world. And that's it. 5 by 5. It's really, really simple.
Yeah, we tried to make it really simple, but the best thing about it is it's faster. I mean, 4K HDR, no problem. We can scale and grow to whatever you need. You can literally deploy it in minutes. We're going to show you a 5-minute demo how you can deploy a whole system. It's industry leading. Here's one of the keys to me. It's powered by StorNext 5. If you think StorNext 5 is the only 100% XSAN compatible sharing solution, it runs the biggest media empires in the world, and it has a market share that is non-equaled by anything else, and there's a reason, because it just works. But it's always been hard to set up and hard to manage. We took that all away. It's also compact. I mean, today in this world we're in a 2U system, we can get the power that it took us 8U to do before, and we don't compromise at all. And I think that's really part of the reason that we chose to work with Axel. We look at this really simply. It just makes sense for us to make things faster and easier, and to make collaboration not a headache, but something that allows you to get your job done. We just want to get out of the way. We just want to be that workspace that you count on. Just like when you bring up your Mac or you bring up your PC, you go in your application, it's always there. You just open it and it runs. That's the way we've tried to do this. And when we were looking around to say, how do we find something that makes it easy and fast to find all your assets, that was Axel. That's what it does best. And it doesn't mean that you have to be in the same workspace to do that. That's the beauty of what we loved about Axel. And so we decided to take Axel Starter and Axel 2017 Media Management and to put it on all of our SymplyULTRA systems. Skip, you want to drive through that real quickly?
Absolutely. Well, so we wanted to make this similarly incredibly easy and simple. Our base configuration, which starts at a retail price of $24,995, includes Axel Starter, which will allow you to manage hundreds of thousands of media assets. And then our mid-size configuration includes Axel 2017 for 2 users, the full Axel software solution, and it'll let you handle over 2 million assets. It also includes lots of extra tools and goodies that Axel has. So with these two, probably the most popular SymplyULTRA configurations, you're up and running. You've got software included, and what an easy way to, in a very, very small footprint, not only get storage, allow collaboration, and immediately, and start managing and driving your assets. It's a great system.
That's great. Now let's drive through these things really quickly. So there are 3 base configurations that we have, and the way we look at it is today you have to have freedom of choice, and the key is really that a lot of people today can use a 10 gig or 1 gig Ethernet collaboration suite, and we feel that there's a place for that, but it can't be just limited to that. The problem is when you start with a lot of systems, you have to make that choice up front. You go, well, what do I want? Do I want that full-blown StorNext-based system that has fiber channel, and maybe I can add on Ethernet connectivity, and it starts at X price? Or do I start with an Ethernet-based system, and then, if I outgrow it, I got to put it on eBay? So we said we don't want to do that. What we did is we started with a low-cost 10 gig E collaboration solution that includes Axel Starter. It's fast, it's SMB and NFS connectivity. It starts with 48 terabytes at $19,995 MSRP. That's all you need. That's everything. That's a complete solution. If you have just a few systems, you can plug them right in the back of this system. It has incredible, and we'll talk about the connectivity, has incredible connectivity. If you're someone that has an existing, say, an XSAN network or existing fiber channel network, and you just want to upgrade, move to StorNext 5, all in just 16 gigabit fiber channel connectivity that you can later add 10 gig Ethernet connectivity to. Guess what? You can start with a 96 terabyte for $34,995, and that includes Axel 2017. Now, if you want the no compromise system, that gives you both 10 gig Ethernet and 16 gig fiber channel, and you maybe don't need the capacity. You can start with 48 terabytes there for $24,995, and that includes Axel 2017 as well. But the beauty is all these systems are complete collaboration with no compromises. They all share the same advanced features. They're 100% redundant. Ask other integrated systems if they have this. Are the drives redundant, the controllers, the power, the cooling, and the interfaces? Most of them will tell you no. They're not built on RAID technology. They're built on computer technology because it's cheaper. We didn't go that way. We went with dual controllers that are 6-core Xeon processors. That means you have two 6-core Xeon processors, completely redundant, and this is where the software-defined storage comes in. We virtualize the RAID kernel, we have application hosting on the system, and we have standard high-capacity memory. So it's not like you're worried about cramming everything in and not having enough space for it. These things are cool, they're silent, they're fantastic, and we have guaranteed performance. What we say the numbers will do, we'll guarantee those numbers. Best part of this whole system is the scalability and upgradability. You can start with any one of our systems and upgrade it to the next. At any time, you can start with 10 gig E and you can add StorNext to it. And then of course for me, SymplyRTM, our real-time management software that Jason's going to drive you through, that's really the key to this whole solution. Now, I just threw up a couple different ways to look at this. This is with our 10 gig E solution, a SymplyULTRA with 10 gig E, Ethernet clients with Axel connected right to the Ethernet switch. Here's the beauty of this. You have 2 times quad 10 gig Ethernet client access. And you can add more to this system. You can add up to 2 times 2 times quad. So think of this has 8 10 gig ports. You can have 16 10 gig ports, and they can be a mix and a match of optical or copper. So that might be a little technical for a lot of people, but if you have questions on that, we can drive through them. And this system, while it says it's powered by StorNext 5, it doesn't come powered by StorNext 5. StorNext 5 is optional on here, but it is a high availability design, and you get remote monitoring and management, and all the same tools work on all the systems. The second system is a traditional high-resolution SAN. Now, this is where you'd come from an XSAN or another high-resolution type of SAN. Performance is pretty much guaranteed. You've got 8 16 gig fiber channel ports, tons of performance on here. In fact, if I had just 4 clients, I'd probably connect them directly, dual port them on the system, and you wouldn't even have to worry about it. You'll notice I don't have Axel connecting to the, because one of the beautiful things of Axel is that everybody outside the network, people who are on Ethernet, because all these fiber channel connected clients will also have Ethernet for the network. Anybody on the network can get that. And we see this system in a lot of traditional, either small post facilities or a lot of in-house facilities. But the beauty of this system is you can have both. So with a SymplyULTRA, you can have multiple client interfaces. There's no reason to choose between 16 gig and 10 gig, and everybody shares the same content. They can share it. It's all connected by StorNext 5, and it can work with AD and OD, if you know what those are, Active Directory and Open Directory. And again, everybody can see Axel, and everybody can work with it. And these systems start at $24,995. So you can have this full-blown system that's 100% redundant, really inexpensive. This is really a change in the way things are done. No one has been able to deliver this, especially when you consider it has the industry standard leading software of StorNext. And for me, scalability on demand is another key. So you can grow this. We don't like to put more than about a petabyte in a single workspace, if that's an online workspace. But of course, when you're working with a workspace that's both online and archive, you can of course grow that much, much bigger. But this is the way we would see that. And what's beautiful about it, because of this software, you can add this on demand. So it's no reconfiguration required. Just keep adding storage as you need it. So grow as you go, as we like to say.
Hey, Alex, one, just to tag team on that before we dive into RTM. One of the really interesting uses that customers are already planning for new SymplyULTRAs, they may have an existing environment, but what they want to do is stand up an independent team without having to replumb the whole building. And you can still interconnect with the other SAN environment. And then
we're doing something like 4K work or other work that they haven't done before. A lot of raw 4K that people are working with today, they need higher level of performance, and they may want to add it. That's great.
So I call that the Tiger Team approach, but there's one more that was kind of interesting, and that is that a lot of news gathering organizations and people that cover events that is increasingly 4K video. Imagine, you've got an event, let's say an election was this particular customer, and they needed to stand up lots of 4K stringers that would come back to kind of an outpost, a hotel or whatever. They wanted something, so a 2U form factor, maybe not even needing a switch, depending on the number of people connecting in, and then boom, everything is now on your RAID protected device. That really excited a lot of customers. So we're seeing a lot of upticks in that too. So it's, when you make something simple that can scale, interconnect really well, is really flexible, whether it's fiber channel, giggy, 10 giggy, whatever, the uses really surprise and delight you.
Yeah, I think that people get that. And it's all really good to talk about that. And a lot of these systems, they usually have a couple compromises or what I would consider flaws. The first flaw is if they try to make it simple, they don't have capabilities. The second flaw is if they try to have a lot of capabilities, they certainly don't make it simple. And what an engineer calls simple isn't always what we would call simple. So we built SymplyRTM, and RTM is a brand new look. We've been working on this for a while, and this is a brand new look at the way storage management is done. It's truly real time. It's somewhat in its infancy because we built the base. So what we tried to do with SymplyRTM was to build on a technology, and I'll let Jason drive through all this, but build on a technology that's completely extensible to allow us to do more things with it. But the keys really are that you can deploy one or many systems remotely very easily. You can manage all your Symply systems anywhere in the world from one single interface. You can monitor on a Mac, Windows, or iOS. And what's really nice about it, it's one app for your entire Symply workspace. There's no go into the StorNext app. There's no go into Linux. There's no going into the RAID. It's all integrated. And part of that is because of the technology below it. Our whole virtualized environment, our very high performance Intel-based RAID system that allows us to do this. And you'll see we're adding performance analytics and 21st century support through the idea of having a cloud interface. And because I don't want to take all the time here, I want to turn it over to Jason, and I want Jason to drive it. So Jason, if you don't mind.
All right. Can you guys see my screen here now? Okay. Yeah. All right, great. So this is SymplyRTM, and what I'm going to do is take you through a couple of the key features here. So when we first log in to SymplyRTM, you'll notice that we are logged in, and that's something different for a management application of this type. Being logged in gives us a couple really good capabilities, not the least of which is the fact that if we have an issue, we can actually select our system. And when we go to do things like get system logs, traditionally we'd have to get those logs, download them, call up support, give them all sorts of information to try and get them to know who we are, and then upload those logs and do all this dance. We thought there might be a better way. So when you get a system log inside of SymplyRTM, that system log not only gets downloaded to you, but it also gets uploaded to our servers, and we also get notification. We know who you are, we know what system it is, and we know everything we need to know to be able to properly support you. And you can also determine when you get this system log if you want to notify Symply support or if you want to notify your reseller for support or system integrator. So by doing that, we make this process something where if you have an issue, you click this one button and you'll get a call back a couple minutes later from someone who's seen the logs, who knows what your issue is, and is ready to support you right out of the gate. So that's just one of the basic things. Now, as far as getting the system set up, the first thing that we're going to do is select this menu, and we're going to come down here and we're going to go to configure arrays. And when we do that, it's going to automatically pop up and show us available configurations. Now I'm on a device that's already fully configured, so it's going to filter those out so that we don't have any options currently. But I could also always browse, and I can choose a configuration script. And when I do that, it's going to give me a little summary up here of what's going to happen. And then I have an extra little checkbox here to include delete command so I don't accidentally delete something. I click execute, and that's it. I now have all my arrays configured on the device. If I come over to the arrays tab, I can see what that looks like. In this case, I can see that I have 4 enclosures in total. I have my primary unit plus 3 expansions. And if I open up these expansions, I can actually see all the arrays that have been configured on each of those, as well as on the head unit. So the next step is, now I need to create a volume, and I want to create a StorNext volume. I come over to my volumes tab. I'm going to click add new volume. I'm simply going to give it a name, and then I'm going to select the different arrays that I want to work with. Then for each array, I'm going to choose which pool to put that array into. So metadata, data 1. Here I could do data 2. Once I have selected data 1, data 2 becomes available. I don't have to name these or come up with different parameters for this. It's very straightforward. So I choose the storage pool I want, give my volume a name, and when I click configure, that's it. I'm done. I now have a new StorNext volume, fully configured, mounted on my metadata controller, and ready to go. Next thing I need to do is I need a client. I already have some clients on here. If I want to add a new client, I simply come down to the bottom, click a plus button, give the client a name, put in that system's username, password, the LAN IP, and the meta IP, and click save. As soon as I click save, SymplyRTM will automatically log into that system, set up all the necessary software in the back end for StorNext, be able to actually run the configuration files, and then mount the volume. It's done. The volume is now mounted on that client system. It shows up just like all these other clients, and then I can mount and unmount whichever volumes are available right here. So again, very quick, very simple process. If you've ever deployed StorNext by itself before, you'd notice that we've done a lot of the work behind the scenes and made it very straightforward and made it something that used to take days, take less than an hour to 2 hours. From the time I've taken a box out of I actually unpacked a new Symply unit to the time it's been fully configured, up and running with StorNext can be done in simply a couple of hours. And then the last tab over here is the enclosure tab. In the enclosure tab, we see all of the basic details of what's happening on the system. And if we hover over these, we get some details of things like the power, the fans, and their status. And if there was an issue with any of these items, instead of a green check, we would see a red X. And then if something is not plugged in, like some of these ports down here, we see a gray X, so it's very clear. Also, there's notifications. If I do a refresh, we see a little notification pop up down here. That one's just device refreshing, so it's very quick, comes and goes. But if there's ever any issue, it would show up in red, and it doesn't go away until you click it. So that's a quick tour of SymplyRTM.
If I can jump in, so SymplyRTM, I will say it's to those of you that work in media every day, you say that looks awfully pixelated. That's a transparent glass interface. I mean, we always, when we're describing this interface, we say it's a single pane of glass. Well, our designer, who actually came to us from one of the very brand name VR projects and a major gaming center, basically had this vision to build out something that literally was a pane of glass, and it's pretty amazing stuff. And then Jason, I can brag about Jason a bit, and that is that the interfaces, everything that come up from the Linux interface, the software-defined storage technology, StorNext itself, anything streaming off of the hardware can be consumed by SymplyRTM, and software development is not like anything I've seen in 20 years of helping developers build great software. It's, in fact, we as a team all contribute to both the user interface, the development, the code under the hood, and are landing features every day. In fact, we even, Jason, landed several as we were developing on the show floor. Checking in code to remote code servers. It's pretty exciting stuff, and new technology, a completely new interface, and it's very exciting.
Yeah, and I just want to add, this is Alex, and I just want to add, as we turn this back over to Sam, one of the most interesting things about this is that we took a lot of input at NAB. So what you are actually seeing here today has some input that came back from some of the leading, what I would call leading post facilities that we spoke to from Los Angeles and around the world that were at NAB. A couple broadcasters, couple posts. In fact, one in-house education developer as well came to us and said there's a few things in education that you guys are missing in that market. And because we manage this like an ongoing project in a team, we're able to quickly make those changes and get those in. So we're trying to be as fast on our feet as we can, because that's the way development is done today, and it's done to meet the changing needs of all of our customers. So with that, let's turn it back over to Sam and Patrice, and
thanks
everyone.
Great. And actually, there was a question that came in, so maybe you guys could field that, just asking about workgroup management and how users and groups are managed. Is that something you can answer text-wise, or would you rather just?
Thank you, Sam. I did answer it in text, sure. But the question was,
great.
How do you manage users? And the answer is you manage it right here in the Clients tab, whether it's the fiber channel version or the IP-oriented version. It's all done right inside this tool.
Awesome. Okay, and keep the questions coming. By the way, we've had some good ones.
Yep.
So don't hesitate.
There's one other question that I saw that came up here, which basically said, what about StorNext 6, because it was introduced? And I would just say that as soon as StorNext 6 is available, we will have it replacing StorNext 5 on our systems as soon as we feel good about it.
Great. Okay, hopefully everyone can see my screen at this point, and we'll just segue back into the Axel side of the presentation. We're right on schedule, which is great. And again, feel free to hit us up with questions as we go. About half of our presentation is going to be a discussion of Axel. Some of you may already be familiar with it. I certainly see some names I recognize in the attendee list. So if we're a little too introductory and you want us to get to some more advanced topics, don't hesitate to ask. We don't have cool cartoon characters for ourselves, so we'll have to settle for photos. That's me and Patrice there. We've worked together for some years, maybe not as long as I've known Alex, so that's a whole nother level. But still, we've been working together for a long time, and you know, Patrice is kind of our product guru, so he's going to be handling the demo and some of the deeper dive on things like Axel AI, for instance. So first, what are these products? What does Axel actually do? A little background. This is a chart that shows the growth in storage for media and entertainment over the last 5 or 6 years. And as you can tell, it's pretty dramatic growth. But the interesting thing, and this is compiled by a group that kind of surveys the storage aspects of the media industry, Tom Coughlin and his team. But when you take these numbers and you say, well, okay, these are the big broadcasters and the famous movie studios, how about everybody else, like the rest of the world that's doing media? The answer is that you roughly triple your numbers. Oops. Sorry about that. You roughly triple your numbers. So, you know, what starts out being some pretty big numbers, for instance, more or less 100 exabytes of storage this year, goes to over 200 exabytes if you factor in all the smaller teams, kind of the applications that Skip was talking about, independent field teams, event teams, people shooting indie films, stuff like that. And so when you factor all that in, it's somewhere around 200 to 250 exabytes of storage per year, which is a truly massive number. And you know, just for those who don't know, an exabyte is 1,000 petabytes. So we're definitely getting up there. By the way, worldwide sales of storage are pretty much flat, which means that as a percentage of the worldwide storage market, media is taking up more and more of it, and that's not surprising considering that, you know, Cisco has said that I think next year video is going to take up 80% of internet bandwidth. So with those kinds of statistics, it's not surprising that an ever-growing chunk of the storage that's sold is used for that. And in the real world, that storage often looks kind of like this. This is one of our favorite photos at Axel. It is actually from a post facility in LA, which will go nameless, but we see it all the time, and we see it in corporate teams. We see it at universities, just everywhere. So it's not about a specific group or a specific part of the industry. Everybody shoots footage, they bring it back on hard drives, they copy off what they need, they put the hard drives on a shelf, and then they look back a few years later and it looks a little bit like this. Recently I visited one facility that had close to 1.5 petabytes of RAIDs and loose hard drives, all shot at events, and with almost none of it centralized and really managed in any way. So what Axel does is it takes that kind of anarchy of storage and first of all sits on top of a shared system. That is, we can't just magically catalog a closet full of drives. You need to have a system like the SymplyULTRA where you consolidate a lot of your media and pull them together in one place. But then what we give you is a browser interface for reviewing that media, for playing back low resolution proxies, and for searching it from anywhere in your network. And it runs on mobile devices, phones, and of course Macs and PCs because it's browser based. So you don't have to install special client applications or Java or anything like that on the workstations and mobile devices that are connected to Axel. We have in the last year added one very cool thing that does require pretty much a one-click install, which is a Premiere panel for you know, Adobe's industry-leading mainstream editor, and you can just get this panel from the Adobe equivalent of the App Store, turn it on in your Premiere system, whether it's Mac or PC, and get a search interface that Patrice will be showing that is a subset of what you could see from our browser interface on any device. The nice thing about having that embedded right into Premiere is that you can take media and basically bring them right into your timeline. By the way, we are looking at doing integrations with other NLEs that would be a similar level of kind of tight workflow. We don't have any formal announcements to make yet, but we're pretty far along with Final Cut Pro 10, and there will be more stuff coming this year. So what makes Axel different from a traditional MAM? Obviously, people are at least in some way familiar with these things like, you know, Avid Interplay, Delete, CatDV. The big differences are that we don't try to manage everything. We actually try to do less. So we're not trying to control where your data goes. We're not trying to change what workflows you can use or what formats you can bring in and out of the system. And we don't have stuff like checking things in and out. Instead, we just watch what's going on. So you point Axel at your storage system. We watch for new files. When we find new files, we figure out what type there are, get the metadata from them, make low resolution proxies. And we built the whole thing with a modern web tool set instead of with traditional tools like say a heavy Java client, so that it is as easy to deploy as it is to use. We've also really gone out of our way to make it open, so all of the metadata is stored in standard formats like SQL and XML, and we even have a REST API, which has now been used for like a half dozen integrations. For instance, one example is at NAB, we were showing an integration with a French company, Firefly Cinema, that has onset daily software. And it's awesome onset daily software, but what it hasn't had up till now is the ability to hand off to media management so that when you come back from the set, you can just take all your, you know, sort of on the fly tagging of things and push that straight into media management. You can also push, for instance, color graded proxies from Firefly. And we've also done integration iPad editing applications for capture applications. So that openness really gives us a lot of potential because we don't have to do everything. We can do that with partners. And I guess that, you know, the core of it is really this less is more design philosophy of not trying to do too much. Who uses our software? Today it's actually close to 420 sites worldwide. And it's a mix. It's a mix of post-production, as you'd expect, broadcast, as you'd expect, but then a bunch of people you might not expect. So corporate training teams, educational institutions, sports teams, houses of worship, not-for-profits, ad agencies, and governments. And then let me just talk briefly about Axel AI. Patrice will be demoing it. The basic idea of Axel AI is, wouldn't it be great if you didn't have to tag all your media? Axel gives you some pretty powerful tools for subclipping and tagging, and Patrice will show a little bit of that. But more than anything, people don't want to have to do extra work. So in an ideal world, you could just bring up some footage and say, you know what, I know there's some other footage like this. Can you just find it for me? And so Axel AI, although it is an extra cost option and does add significantly to the cost of the system, is a tremendously powerful tool for people who just want to find stuff without having to do a lot of the upfront legwork. So it uses kind of deep learning AI technology and essentially allows you to either pick a frame within a clip that you're viewing, or even unrelated media like images you might have found on the web or something, and say, find me all the clips that have similar material to this. So very cool stuff. We launched at NAB, and I would say easily half of the buzz around our booth, which was substantial, was focused on this, because people were really blown away by what you can do with it. So with that, I'm going to hand things over to Patrice. And let's see here. So Patrice, are you able to?
Yes. Do you see my screen? You should be seeing the login page for Axel.
Yes.
Yep. Great. So as I mentioned, the Axel servers sit on top of your storage, monitor what is going on, and you can access it from any HTML5 capable browser. So it can be Safari, Chrome, Firefox, on your mobile device. You can also use Windows Edge if you're running PC and still brave enough to actually use Internet Explorer technology. And the idea is, once I log in with my username and password, I will access only the area that have been allocated by the administrator. So once you have mounted the different volumes from the Symply storage, whether you're using fiber connection or you're using Ethernet, you can basically choose what folder or workspaces the user will have access to. And here I am logged in as myself, so I have access to everything. On the left side here, you will see different folders, and these are top folders that are being monitored by Axel. And it can be multiple volumes, or it can be multiple folders within the same volume. Just below we have the folder tree as well, so I can expand and collapse to quickly browse to the folder I am interested in. Below this, we have what we call the bins, which will be the project areas where I can insert either full clips or segment of a clip that I can then later on export to either Premiere or Final Cut Pro 7 or 10. Below the bin area, I have the smart filters. This is where you will retrieve the search query that will save, or predefined queries such as clips that have been approved or clips that have been added recently. If you decide to have an archiving workflow, either to another storage or to tape, you can also browse quickly what has been archived to your system and have the different information associated to it. And lastly, you can have an additional option in Axel that will let you recreate new high-res from an in and out point. So this is the left side area. Above here, you have the logo, which is customizable. You can use your own logo, or if you decide to have an open access for clients, you can also use your client's logo for each account. have also the search tool. I can easily search different clip, and we have implemented advanced search. So I can quickly go, for example, and type multiple keywords to retrieve only what I am looking for. So I'm looking anything that has been tagged with Boston and has been approved. And you will see in the main area here the content that I can then preview. And lastly, on the right side here, you will have the different file information as well as custom metadata fields that you can create. So once I have retrieved my media, I can do different things. I can, for example, share my media. So if I wanted, for example, to go to these two clips here, I can share my media and create a link directly. And what that will do, basically, I can enter a different email address, and I can choose an expiration date, and also authorize the person to download. So what I'm going to do, if I hit send, it's going to send an email address to Sam in this instance. But since I have control, I'm just going to copy the link and paste it over. And as you can see, we automatically provide the IP address of the system. And once I access my system right here, I will have access to the proxy, and I can quickly choose the approval. So it's a quick review and approval workflow that you can have with the producers. And the beauty of it is they do not need to have access to the storage directly. They can review directly the proxies that have been created by Axel. I forgot to mention that as soon as Axel picks up new files, it is going to create H.264 low-res proxies automatically for you. And we support pretty much any kind of codecs, and we are also expanding the number of transcoders that we use on the side to broaden the support. What I can also do is, of course, I can either download the clip, or I can add my selection to a bin. And from there, for example, I have project one right here. You will see that I have the new clip added right here. And I can then create an export for Final Cut Pro for Premiere. So I can, for example, pick what I need, and I will create an XML for Premiere Pro. I have downloaded my XML right here, and I can then just bring it here and grab the XML that I had just created. And what we are going to do from there is we are going to bring in the files with the selection that have been created. But this is the old way with Axel. We are actually trying to be much more intuitive. If I were now to go to the extensions on Premiere, you will see that I have the Axel extension. And what it is going to do is allow me to connect to any Axel system that I have access to. And I will again insert login. I will see again my folder structure. I can easily browse, and I can quickly see the elements. Or I can do again research. So I can do, for example, a search again on Boston, and it will retrieve some elements. I have a lot of images, but I can, for example, select images and bring them straight to my project area and start to edit. It looks like this file is offline. So all the files are online, it will be brought in. And I can just continue. So if I do .mov, for example, I will retrieve different objects that I have and jump to different clips. What we can also do, as I mentioned earlier, we had the bin area. What I can also do is go back all the way to the beginning. And I can take, for example, this this whole bin that I have, and I can import directly the bin into the project area. And once I'm ready, I can start to edit straight off the bat. One thing that is good to notice is we also bring in the markers that you will have. So if you set markers into Axel, they are going to show up in your NLE. So that has been a quick introduction to Axel and the Premiere panel. And we have just announced at NAB the Axel AI. And that's actually very exciting. So I'm just going to connect to another server that is connected to our AI server. Just going to log in again, and you will see, once again, very easy to browse. And I can, for example, go on this clip, and I can browse my low-res proxy. And as you will notice, I have now a search option right here, directly on the video player. And so what this will do is it's actually going to search straight off the frame that I have selected. So I can just go in, and let's say, for example, I'm interested to find more footage with this building. Okay, just go in and hit search, and what Axel is going to do is go through my whole catalog and retrieve all the footage with the segment of the building mentioned that I am searching. And we are actually, and of course I can click, and you will see the area where the building is shown, and I can do my usual Axel workflow, mark in, mark out, create a subclip for the bins, or post a marker, or edit the metadata directly. And we are actually pushing this further. For example, if I wanted to search for Big Ben, I'm going just to do a quick Google search, find an image, and I'm going to take this photo of Big Ben right here. And so what we have implemented in Axel is now the possibility to search from an image. And I can just go and drag and drop my image into my search area, and it is actually finding me all the footage that I have in Axel with the Big Ben clock. And you will see all the different segments underneath that I can basically move my mouse over and see. And once again, I can click, I can see the area of interest within my timeline, and I can do what I need. So I can, for example, update here, and I can say location, London, and I can definitely tag more based on my needs, or I can post a marker.
So thanks, Patrice. And you know, I just want to emphasize that the Axel AI stuff is really a breakthrough technology. We feel like that there's even more potential in that area, and we're going to be tying into additional modules, because Axel AI isn't really one product. Over time, it's going to be more of a platform where we can plug in the latest analytics tools from, say, the Google Vision Search or IBM Watson, and essentially plug these things into it over time so that it can get smarter and smarter on your behalf. So it does actually run on an outboard processor. It's going to be something that we expect to add the capabilities to over time, and it could really be a game changer. Traditionally, the biggest problem with media management is that it's kind of boring. Like, nobody wants to all day tagging things with metadata. Very few of us, I mean, there's librarians and you know, God bless, but very few of us are going to choose to spend that day tagging. And so what this opens up is the potential for media management to be much more mainstream and much more powerful, precisely because it doesn't depend on somebody really compulsively going through every minute of the footage that they've shot. In many cases, it's simply not practical. You can imagine these sites with hundreds of terabytes or even petabytes of footage, and there's just no way they're going to be able to go through it all in any reasonable fashion. So so thanks, Patrice. I think hopefully this gives everyone a feel for both Axel and Axel AI. And what I thought I would do just by way of wrapping up, is talk a little bit about the configurations that are needed to run Axel. And by the way, thanks for all the tremendous questions that we've had coming in. So gosh, it's a couple dozen questions already, and keep them coming. We really appreciate it. And as I say, we've set aside the last 20 minutes of the webinar for more questions. So that's really appreciated. Let me then move ahead to the remainder of our presentation, which is about hardware configuration. So when we first rolled out Axel, which is almost exactly 5 years ago now, it was geared at much smaller workflows, and frankly, we had no idea what we were getting into. We figured it was going to be used by 1 or 2 person teams and maybe 10 terabytes of storage. In the intervening time, our customers have pushed us further and further into the direction of large capacities, high throughput, very high productivity teams. So the original Axel recommended configurations have over time given way to some more powerful ones, and I'll talk about those. So back in the day, we were recommending Mac Minis, and by the way, these were quad-core Mac Minis, which are no longer manufactured. So if anything, Apple has gone in the wrong direction for this. And today we don't recommend Mac Minis for running Axel at all. You just can't get the horsepower you need. You could do a good, maybe a small demo on a Mac Mini, but anything you try to do that has serious throughput, because Axel is running a web server, a database, transcoding, and all the back-end processing for things like Elasticsearch, there's just no way that you can get that done on a Mac Mini. We do have some people that are using iMacs, some of the larger iMacs, but then it's a waste of a really nice screen to turn it into a server for Axel. So overwhelmingly, what our customers are doing today is they're using the last generation Mac Pros, because almost every post-production team you visit will have 2 or 3 of these powered down because they bought the latest Mac Pros, and these are kind of the hand-me-downs, but they're excellent for running our software. Often they'll have 8 or 12 cores. We do recommend putting in an SSD as a boot disk, and of course loading a recent OS version. But apart from that, you're good to go. And there's even companies, excuse me, like OWC that are selling reconfigured Mac Pro towers for $2,000, $2,500. So that's become the kind of de facto recommended Axel server. Of course, if you have more money or if you want to be a little more forward-looking, the new Mac Pros are even better for this. They're also more compact, and so that's a great solution if you have the budget, especially with the latest upgrades that Apple's done. It's a little more affordable bang for the buck on these machines. And then finally, we have customers that are actually using multiple Mac Pros to create clustered systems. But more and more what we're doing here is we're offloading tasks to Linux processors. So Axel AI is actually offloaded to a quad-core Linux processor. We've also just made an announcement with Elemental. So we're offloading transcoding to 4, 8, and even up to 24-core Linux processors for the Elemental transcode. And this is simply because you can get a whole lot more bang for the buck out of a Linux box, typically HP is what we recommend, than you can by sort of piling on the Mac Pros. Obviously, we'll see what Apple comes up with next year, and that could change. But for the foreseeable future, we use the Mac for the core logic, and then we're basically expanding the processing with Linux boxes. So with that, I think we will head back to the Q&A portion of the program. And let's see, either Patrice or Alex or Skip, do you guys have anything that you want to add just based on the questions that have come in? Are there things that may have touched on that could be elaborated on?
Yes, so actually we have questions regarding Axel AI. One question that was asked, which I figured we should address live, would be whether or not Axel AI does facial recognition. And as it stands right now, the current shipping solution only does object, buildings, and logo recognition. but we do not necessarily do facial recognition just yet. So this is something that we are investigating, and we are hoping to make progress. As Sam mentioned, we are looking to integrate it to other platforms that will make the solution far more complete. There was also a question about Axel and redundancy. So this is something that once you install Axel, we automatically back up the database, and you can choose a safe location. In this case, because Symply will have all the redundancy we need, I would say, so you have safeguard for your high-res media. You can have a volume dedicated for the low-res proxies as well for Axel, and the database backup. And that way we can be back up and running within minutes. The other option, because Axel is so flexible with REST API, XML workflow, or even database cloning, is we can find some workflows that will basically mirror what you have from one Mac to another, so that you can just switch the Ethernet port for Ethernet cable to another machine and be back up and running.
Yeah, and actually to that point, it's probably worth mentioning that Axel is really designed to avoid a lot of the challenges of high availability that are much more central to a traditional MAM system. The reason is that we're not actually in charge of your data. So in a traditional MAM, if you check something in and then the MAM goes down, you literally have no idea where your media is, because you've got to get to it at some often abstruse location that the MAM has kind of set aside, and if the MAM's down, you're down. So it makes the MAM a much more mission critical system. With Axel, all of the folder structures that Patrice was showing you are the actual folder structures that you access directly on your Symply storage. So there's no redirection. Those folders are the folders. And let's say Axel were to go down and your Premiere panel isn't available to you, you can just navigate the folder tree precisely as you would if Axel wasn't around. So in that sense, high availability is not a necessary objective here. We have a few customers that have asked us about it and even implemented it to some degree, but it's never like a milliseconds of downtime kind of thing. It's more like minutes of downtime, because the users can still get their work done. The data paths from the storage to their workstations are completely, and Axel is sort of out of band doing its own thing, but it doesn't block that. Yes, I just saw this last question about Media Composer. Yes, we are working on a very nice Media Composer integration, but we can't comment on it yet. And hopefully we'll be making some noise about that a little later in the year. I should mention, I think I touched on it earlier, but we are pretty far along with a Final Cut Pro 10 companion app. And folks that are interested in that specifically should contact us, because we'll be doing a beta in the next month or two. Basically, what that allows you to do is similar to what the Premiere panel does. Obviously, FCPX doesn't have a panel capability like Adobe's, but you have drag and drop from other OS X native apps. So what we've done is we've built an OS X native app from which you can drag and drop things to and from Axel, and it's pretty slick, but not quite ready for release yet. Skip, go ahead.
Yeah, it's Alex, Sam. We had a couple of questions. We had a couple questions that came up over and over again. The first was about licensing. So people had asked, since you're using StorNext, what does your licensing model look like? Because I think a lot of people, we talked about our 5x5 warranty and software maintenance on metadata controllers and other pieces, and people had asked about licensing. So the model looks like this. On our 10 gig or our Ethernet only sharing model, there is no licensing costs at all. So whether you have Macs, Windows, or Linux systems, you pay no licenses at all, no maintenance fees. Everything is included in there. When you move to fiber channel based systems, which includes StorNext 5, all of the Mac clients are licensed under NAS-SAN. So all Macs have NAS-SAN built in. It's probably one of the last kernel extensions that are built into the Apple or the Mac OS operating system. And so there are no licensing fees whatsoever. On a Windows and Linux license, there is a licensing fee for the StorNext license, but it's far reduced cost from what you would buy with the standard Quantum StorNext license. So I think that that is something that that we got as a question over and over again. There is a maintenance fee, very, very low cost maintenance fee yearly on that as well. So that's the way licensing works on that, but it's only where there's fiber channel licenses. On systems that include fiber channel and Ethernet, you would only pay for the fiber channel licenses and only if they were Windows and Linux. So that's the way licensing works. Second question that came up twice in here was that, will we have a StorNext 6? So the answer is yes. As soon as StorNext 6 is available in general availability, we will have that. So I thought we covered that, but I wanted to put that in. And then the last question that we had a couple of times here was simply about managing with Open Directory and Active Directory. And I think there's not a lot of complication on how that's done. Jason, if you're still on, I'll let you address that. Otherwise, people can email us directly, and we wanted to give our email address as well. I'm alex@gosimply.com. Skip is skip@gosimply.com. And Jason is jason@gosimply.com. Thank you, Sam, for putting that up there. So if there are particular questions that are extensive, we might want to set up a quick call and go through your particular configuration. We do offer configuration assistance on everything, and we are available through better resellers and VARs throughout the world. So I just wanted to add that in there.
Yeah, and actually, just for those that don't know, you know, Alex and Skip and the team, these are some of the best StorNext engineers and just engineers, period, that you're gonna meet. So it's a really great resource to have available if you're getting in any configuration questions. You know, Jason, for instance, is just a leading light of the consultant community, going back to when he was at Levels Beyond, for instance, and even before that in the Final Cut server world. So definitely, you've got some great resources both on the Symply side and the Axel side, I would say, for getting detailed workflow questions answered. Speaking of which, actually on the workflow side, we do have Active Directory integrations with Axel. It is an extra cost option, but what we can do is basically bring in your AD users and groups and inherit the credentials from those into Axel. Patrice didn't show the administrative interface. It's a very simple graphical interface, but you can basically take individual users and say, okay, I want that user to be also an Axel user, and then attach templates for what the permissions and paths for those users would be. We haven't done OD yet, but we have had a few requests for it, so it's likely that we'll be doing that in the next 6 to 12 months. Oh wow, more questions on the track. Let's see. So there's a question about using Symply for traditional SAN NAS file services on one volume. Do you see that one, Alex?
No, I don't see that one.
There was an answer. Okay. So I think Skip answered it while we were waiting.
Okay, thank you, Skip.
Absolutely. The answer was, can I divide up my storage? Perhaps have one.
What was the question? What was the question first, Skip? Drive the question.
Okay. I just tagging in what Sam said, and it was, can I use the SymplyULTRA and have traditional SAN or NAS file services on one volume, and then have a second volume that I use for Axel? And the answer is yes. You have a tremendous amount of flexibility. As always, there's performance consideration. The more disks you have in a volume, you tend to have better performance. But we're here to coach customers through all those considerations. Our favorite thing to do is do a virtual whiteboard with you, even if you're just sort of figuring out what you want to do. and that will, I think, cement that this is the right solution for you or not. We're happy either way as long as you're productive, and obviously we hope you'll choose SymplyULTRA, but we'd much rather you be creating great stuff. So.
Yeah, let me mention one thing on that, Skip, because it got me going on that. Yes, the one beautiful thing about having a very simple interface and the way things are done is we can actually do that. We can dedicate a particular volume to Axel, and we can actually slice across the drives in this case, because we can make it a RAID 5 or RAID 6 or RAID 1 to be able to do that. So one thing that we do have an advantage of that most systems can't really bring up is that we have incredibly fast rebuild time. So one of the beauties of being software defined and virtualized is that we do virtualize our rebuild. So a lot of people are very scared about getting into 4 terabyte and 8 terabyte and soon 10 and 12 terabyte hard drives, and they say, oh my gosh, if I lose a hard drive, it's going to literally take a week to rebuild that hard drive. So I'm exposed, I need to move to RAID 6, that means I need to give up a lot of space. We actually do a virtualized rebuild, and in most cases, we can rebuild that hard drive in a few hours. So depending on the load on the system, we can rebuild an 8 terabyte hard drive in as little as 2 hours, and sometimes it can take maybe up to 12 hours. But generally, that's 5 or 6 or even 10 times faster than what our competitors do. That allows us to be able to build volumes, such as building a volume for Axel as a slice inside of the volume that we already have. And this gives us the capability of being able to kind of micro slice down these volumes so that Axel runs in one and your storage runs in another. This way you're fully protected on the same set of disks. It's a little complex to just talk about, but we can show you some diagrams of how this works, and our interface makes it extremely simple and easy to set up.
And actually, speaking of interfaces, it occurs to me we might want to take a minute or two, since we have a few left, and just maybe show the administrative interface of Axel. So I don't want to put you on the spot, Patrice, but if you could just bring up your browser and very quickly just show like how you set up users and how you set up the catalog paths, that might help folks who are having questions about, can you have certain parts of your Symply array dedicated to Axel but not others, things like that. Oh, we may have lost Patrice.
No, I'm here.
Oh,
sorry about
okay.
that.
No problem.
Sorry about that. So yeah, let's definitely do that. It's very simple. You will have access to the admin pages if you're logged in as an administrator user in Axel. So from this icon on the top right, which you see is a little guy here, I can access the administrator pages. One quick thing to show, you can also switch with different languages if you decided to, as you can see. So in the admin pages, the first thing you will see will be the user interface. And you will see that I have different users that have access to different things. So I have a demo user to which I only gave access to 2 folders, one called ingested media and one called music videos. And I can change the permissions on the right side based on the folder level. As you can see in music videos, they cannot change the metadata, they cannot post comments, they cannot even approve files, but I can do all of that in ingested media. Below that, you have the main, the global administration for the user. Can you share files? Can you download the originals, access bins, and so on. We have also email notifications for some actions as well, for when the file has been downloaded, approved, or comment posted, for example. The second area here that you will see, and you see it's a very limited number of areas. The second area would be the catalogs, which is basically where I set the different top folders that are being watched by Axel. Some of them will be external volumes. I have also Avid Media files for some workspaces. That's testing purposes for what is coming soon. Or I can also use different local, what I have locally. So anything that the Mac sees, I can allocate to Axel. So if you want to point to a whole volume that exists on Symply, you can point it to the whole volume, or you can go even further down. For example, for the Axel storage here volume that I have, I went down 2 folders level and I only take the clips.
Great.
Go
ahead. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, very briefly, 2 more minutes, because just to show you how easy and flexible you can be to create metadata fields in Axel. You can customize all of that based on your workflow. You can have different text fields, you can have checkboxes, button, even tag clouds, which is a new type of metadata that we created in Axel to allow you to press multiple buttons. And all of that is searchable in the end. So I can basically just go here and just say, let me grab the date, and you have the date pop up showing up. Or if I go to location, you have all the different values showing up. And we also bring in the EXIF, IPTC, and XMP metadata that are already embedded to the file. And that's really what you need as an administrator. There are more advanced stuff, such as setting up mail server, different ports that you will want to use for different services in Axel. But these are set up only once you deploy. In reality, you will most likely go to manage the users, add new catalog or remove some catalogs, again, top folders watched in different volumes, or update your metadata schema.
And it's probably worth mentioning that you do have pretty granular control down to the user level. So users can have permissions not only across a complete catalog, but down to a folder level within the catalog. So let's say you had it's the old Coke and Pepsi thing. Suppose Coke had their folder of stuff and Pepsi had their folder of stuff. You can basically make it so that one top level catalog contains all your projects, but the Coke users can only see the Coke subfolder. And then you can be even more narrow with your permissions for those users. Great. All right. Thanks, Patrice. Sorry to put you on the spot there. We didn't really plan that, but since the time was now, I figured we'd do it. Okay. So I think we don't see any other questions coming in, but my goodness, we've had like 36 questions. So been fantastic, not only turnout, but also just level of interest and detail in the questions. It is obviously a pretty exciting new offering, and we're just thrilled to be working with the Symply guys because they do have such a track record in the industry and kind of a breadth of knowledge that it's going to be great to see what we can do out there for customers' real world needs. So with that, I think we can give people back a couple of minutes of time here at the end, unless there are any more questions. Alex, Skip, any closing thoughts?
No, I'm still answering questions, and just drop an email anyone. And Sam, there will be a recording after the available shortly. Yeah, we'll be posting that. There's a couple of places. You can either go to the original website for this webinar, and there will be an option to download the recording, but that may not be up until tomorrow. But we'll also have a recording of this posted on Axel's website, probably in a similar kind of time frame. And what we can do also is we'll send around a link to everybody who attended, and even those who had signed up but might not have been able to attend, so that they can get a copy of the recording as well.
And we thank you all for attending. Thank you very much. And again, as Skip said, if you have any questions, email or call. We're very happy to answer.
Really appreciate it. Thanks, everybody.
Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.